Hello Year 11. Today we're going to go over a revision lesson which many of you have done already, which is about English Language, Paper 2, Question 5. That is the rhetorical writing, so the writing to persuade and argue question of the GCSE. Thanks to Miss Alawalia and Miss Toms for putting this material together. I'm just delivering it, but you will have done this if you've done any of their revision lessons. Okay, so for paper 2, your writing style has to be pretty different from your writing style on paper 1. Paper 2, you're trying to convince someone to do something or think something. Paper 1, you're trying to create an image in their mind. So there are a few guidelines, and you might want to pause and reflect on these, check them against your own writing, create a checklist for revision. These are some of the tips that we as teachers would say you should take into paper 2. So the writing to persuade, to argue, the rhetorical writing. The first thing is they will give you a quote. Don't copy it down. Don't write it at the start of your answer. It's just there to get you thinking. Yeah? So you can think about it, but don't use it in your answer. Second thing, start with an anecdote that links to the task. So you might start, for example, we're going to look at one about sexism, and you might want to say something like, as I hurtled towards the hospital in the ambulance, I didn't care whether it was a woman, a man, a child, or an adult who treated me, so long as someone took the pain away. And then lead in that way. You're going to say, of course, sexism is wrong, and of course, the female doctor, even if you've never been to hospital, that treated you was amazing, and that's going to set up the tone for the rest of your piece. 3, use a variety of at least 5 different sentence types. I'm going to make another quick video and talk you through some different sentence types. Sentence types can be very simple ones, such as using a list or a rhetorical question. Don't overuse rhetorical questions. Lower level answers tend to use hundreds of them. Don't. Think about a list, a longer sentence, a shorter sentence, a question, something in brackets, a complex sentence with a connective. Think about a sentence that starts with a verb, or a sentence that starts with an adjective, or a sentence that starts with a pronoun. There are lots of ways you can vary your sentences, even kind of long and short, without just hammering in loads of question marks, yeah? That makes it look a bit fake and childish. Use maybe 1, 2 questions. The rest of them should be other, more subtle types of sentence, and I will make a video about that. 4, include a 1-sentence paragraph. One of the things you've got to look at is conscious crafting of your paragraphs for effect. The easiest way is to have a really short one with something like a bold statement somewhere in there, like this is wrong, or go and do it now, or think about that, ... Yeah? 5, check your punctuation is accurate. Punctuation is something that you know. No missing question marks, no missing speech marks. I always see people miss out the end of speech marks. How do you know when you've stopped talking? Capital letters, just things like that. Yeah, no double exclamation marks, no double question marks, just one at the end of a sentence. Those things, spellings, you either know them or you don't. Punctuation, you know. Yeah, you learnt that. Your basic punctuation you were taught before you got to high school, before you got to even year 6. Those basics, don't mess up a 16-year-old's answer by using 10-year-old punctuation. Just go back and check it. And I would say don't actually write more than about 1.5 sides, because you can get full marks in 1.5 sides and you'll still have time to go back and check it's perfect. Discourse markers to link your ideas. Another word for discourse markers is connectives. Connectives, joining phrases, discourse markers, whatever you call them in your lessons, use them. And use better ones than and so, and but. Yeah? Therefore, in contrast to, additionally. However, have you considered, furthermore, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into these. There's loads and revision guides online. There's loads in posters in your classroom. You can find one, print it out and learn it. Choose your vocabulary carefully, what effect you want to have. Okay, so the key guideline to this is don't just use every long word you know. What is the most suitable word? So if you're thinking about more advanced vocabulary for happy, because you want to say that feminism is a good thing and it makes people happy, you might not want to choose something like feminism is a celebrational thing. Why? Because it shouldn't just be something you celebrate now and then. It should be an everyday happiness. So then you want to think, okay, I'm going to say feminism brings satisfaction and self-actualization. Yeah? Those are words to do with happiness that are to do with your well-being for a long time. And that's what you're trying to get across. So think about the task and think about your vocabulary and choose it carefully. Think about what you are trying to say, not just using the longest word you know. So you could say something like, feminism will raise women's self-esteem. That's not particularly fancy language, but it's very accurate to the task if you're writing about feminism, as we are going to be. So that would be better than just saying feminism is celebratory. Celebratory is longer, it's fancier, but it's not actually accurate. Choose the best words for the task. And finally, if you use a forest or crap forest, that's your list of methods, don't just put them all in at the start. Don't have like a paragraph that sounds totally fake because it's got every single method you've ever learnt at school. It's got a list of 3, it's got a question mark, it's got a simile, it's got a metaphor, it's got exaggeration. Don't do that. Spread out your methods. There should be some at the beginning, some in the middle, some at the end. And don't forget that anecdote and emotive language and that fact are 3 very valid methods. Yeah? It shouldn't all be like, ta-da, I can use a question, ta-da, I can use a list of 3. It should actually sound realistic. And to do that, you need facts, anecdotes, and emotions and thoughts. And those are valid methods. Spread out all of those others, very, very obvious methods throughout your piece. Do not cram them in the first paragraph. Okay, so we're having a look at this level 2 response. At the end, okay, remember the levels go up to 4 in the mark scheme. If you need them, you can go on the AQA website. If you Google GCSE English AQA sample exam paper, you will get a sample exam paper and a mark scheme. You can have a look at that. We're going to read through this. And then I want you to think, okay, I'm going to add some of those top tips in. See if you can write it yourself. Is snow really that lovely? Many people believe snow is and just a bit of fun that it will go away within a few days. But it's the trouble it leaves along the way that people get worried about. Okay, just a tip there. I was running out of air reading that out. Might tell you something about the sentence length there. The car accidents increased by 10% as drivers cannot control their car, and this results in more injuries and lives that are being put at risk. Okay, you've got over here 10%. Is that really very shocking? Could you make that a more powerful fact? Yeah? Drivers cannot control their car. Driver's car. Lots of drivers, one car. Is that correct? Yeah? There are a few little errors in here. It becomes a great inconvenience when the gritters don't come out, as then roads become slippier and the drivers have to shovel out their cars in the morning. Okay, shovel out their cars sounds a bit clumsy. I would like you to now, this is up to you, pause this, go back to the top tips and write something that adds your top tip stuff to this. See if you can make it better. Yeah? Just pause the video. Okay, coming back. I hope that you went through that and you saw that there definitely, well, there's a method here, but then here you've got a kind of long, kind of wishy-washy sentence. You can sort that out. A lot of this vocabulary, a few days, the trouble, it's not as powerful as it could be. Your fact wasn't that powerful. You could have put a list in. You could have put 3 words. You could be a lot more emotive here. If you're getting injured, you could use an anecdote, couldn't you, about being hurt in a car accident. or writing off your brand new car, which you're going to make something expensive like a BMW. You're not going to make out that you broke your your very old Fiesta, because that's not shocking. Yeah, you're going to say you had a £40,000 BMW that you wrote off thanks to the useless council gritters. So there's lots of ways that could have been a lot more powerful. There weren't many mistakes in this, apart from a couple of overlong sentences, but there wasn't enough in it to really convince you, to really make you think snow is a problem. Okay, so here's your go now. Take this away with you and have a look at how you would write this. Now remember, you're looking for a side and a half. Housework is women's work, men fix cars. Don't copy that down anywhere in your answer. That's somebody being really sexist. The idea is that hopefully you would get a bit irritated by this and you'd be like, no, that's awful. And then you're going to push forward writing an article for a lifestyle magazine. So you're getting people to read something and they're reading it in their spare time. A lifestyle magazine is like the magazine that comes free with the Sunday newspaper, or like, Stylist you get on the train or something like that. It's not a very, very serious magazine. So you don't want to be terrifying people, but you might want to be putting in some human interest, like, yeah, you had an accident and you were saved by a woman doctor, or you might want to talk about a woman you admire, that you saw a woman sports person or something like that. So you're kind of, it's not going to be deadly serious, it's not a careers magazine or something like that, it's for everyone, it's kind of lighter reading, but you're really pushing against this stereotype. I would say against. Now the reason I would say against is not only the moral reason that it's wrong, but also it's a good idea to have a very firm stance where you're against the controversial statement. It helps you because having a big viewpoint helps you use big words, helps you use big emotions, helps you use big examples. You can put an on the other hand in, but if you're somewhere in the middle, you're not going to have that much power, yeah? So you either go fully for or fully against. And I think with this one, it would be very hard to go fully for and not sound ridiculous and sound like a kind of a bad guy in a Victorian book, yeah? Not in a good way, not in a Frankenstein way, in a kind of, I don't like that person very much way. So you would go fully against the statement. Don't copy the statement and don't say, I disagree with the statement. Go in straight away with, my life was saved by a wonderful woman doctor, or I doubted myself until I saw Jennifer Ennis perform at her best, or in these political times all the men gave up, but our Prime Minister, a woman, is the one at the front of the country. So you're going for anecdotes, you're going for examples, and then you're giving a lot of reasons and a lot of thought through vocabulary. Okay, so for your planning, always flap, always say form, language, audience, purpose. Mind map your ideas, decide, you've got a side and a half. Which side do you feel strongest for? What can you write the most for? Evaluate your ideas, so circle the 3 and link them together, and then think what you're going to put in each paragraph, and then think of a strong starting anecdote or emotional detail, and then the end is the other bit. Have a really powerful closing. Okay, so when you're planning, if you pause this and use these questions to help you plan, it should help you with those top tips. When you've done that answer, you can check your own work against the marking criteria on the AQA website. You can take it into your teacher, or you can swap them with a friend. See whose you think is better, who has some good tips. That's a really good way of revising. Good luck, Year 11. I hope you enjoyed this and you found it useful. I'm going to do another one on planning and another one on sentences, which will go up soon, which should help you with this task.